Hello, my friends. My name is Darren Gerdes, and these are three big stories for today. I'm posting my three big stories a little bit earlier today because I have an evening class, and before that, I'll be on with Starsky and Greg Terry, and you'll see that. But if anything changes, I'll let you know if there's any other breaking news. Okay, a few weeks ago, maybe a week or two ago, Parliament, the Verkhovna Rada in Ukraine, passed the military Mobilization Act. And today, Zelensky signed it. So he signed this new draft law. Zelensky signed this bill overhauling mobilization rules, according to the parliamentary website. Ukraine seeks to address acute troop shortages. The law will come into force a month after it's officially published. It obliges men to update their draft data with the authorities, boosts payments to those who volunteer, and adds punishment for draft dodging. It's not as strong as originally. There have been some amendments to it, but nonetheless, it's out now. The bill, signed into law on Tuesday, also lacks the much tougher sanctions for draft evasion that were contained in the initial version. The draft sparked public outcry, and there were more than 4,000 amendments. I showed you that in a Twitter picture. It was like that thick before the final reading in Parliament. Zelensky recently signed a separate law that removed the draft age down from 27 to 25. And again, that's strange to our minds because we're used to hearing like 18, you're ready to go, but that's not how they think there. Okay, next, MPs in Georgia agreed to a draft of repressive foreign agents bill amid protests. Now, I showed you this the other day where there was this big fight that broke out on the legislature floor in the Georgian parliament. Georgian lawmakers have agreed an early draft of a controversial foreign influence bill, sparking fresh street protests against the legislation criticized for mirroring a repressive Russian law. It's like a foreign agent law. You have to register as a foreign agent if you meet these certain criteria. The bill has sparked outrage in Georgia and concern in the West, with many arguing it undermines Georgia's bid for EU membership. Lawmakers voted 78 to 25 to move the draft bill along to further debate. So they're getting closer. It's not solidified yet. It's not over, but they're moving in that direction. Georgia's president, who is at loggerheads with the ruling party, condemned the move as, quote, against the will of the population, unquote. It's a direct provocation, a Russian strategy of destabilization. So it mirrors, again, what Russia has done in making it difficult for an organization to function if they are taking foreign money. So here's a little bit more about it. The EU has called on Tbilisi not to pass the legislation, saying it contradicted the democratic reforms of the country that was required to pursue progress on its path toward membership of the bloc. So it's taking a step backwards. Amnesty International urged Georgian authorities to, quote, immediately stop their incessant efforts to impose repressive legislation on the country's vibrant civil society, unquote. It said the draft law poses a direct threat to the rights to freedom of association and expression. And yeah, I mean, if you have to register as a foreign agent and you're going to be under a certain microscope with that, that is what's going to be happening. The ruling Georgian Dream Party controls 84 seats in the 150-member legislature and can pass a law without opposition backing. If adopted, the bill will require any independent, non-governmental organization or media organization that receives more than 20% of funding from abroad. So any nonprofits, any media, if you receive more than a fifth of your funding from anywhere else, to register as an organization pursuing the interest of a foreign power. Like, that's quite some language. And that's just changed language from this. That was a change from last year's proposal, which used the term agent of foreign influence. Okay, the term foreign agent is rooted in the Soviet past and suggests such people are traitors and enemies of the state. So it's already loaded language. It's going to put these people under a microscope. It's meant to wipe out opposition. A similar law is used in Russia to punish government critics and suffocate independent media. U.S. State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller said last week that passing the law would derail Georgia from its European path. And I think that's really part of the rationale for doing this, and Russia's hand, you can see clearly behind this. The ruling party was forced to drop a similar measure last year following mass protests, and again, there are mass protests in the street right now in Tbilisi, in which police used water cannon and tear gas against demonstrators. Then, in a surprise move before October's parliamentary elections, which are seen as a key democratic test, it reintroduced the bill in Parliament this month. a former Soviet republic. Georgia has sought for years to deepen relations with the West, but the current ruling party is accused of trying to steer the Black Sea nation toward closer ties with Russia. Now, you remember what happened to Georgia in 2008, where there was tensions between Georgia and Russia. Russia used a pretext to come across the Georgian border and take territory. Now, where is Georgia? Ukraine is up here, Russia is here, and then there's Georgia, and there's actually some lease of some ports in Georgia for the Russian Navy right now. And here's Armenia and Azerbaijan. Now, Armenia is actually moving away from the Russians diplomatically, and after the dust up about 6 months ago to a year ago between Armenia and Azerbaijan, Armenia has been kind of stepping back from their friendship with Russia. So Russia is being sure that they're securing at least Georgia, if not Armenia, and they'll probably be monkeying in Armenia's business pretty soon as well. And remember, this is the Russian coast going up all the way up to Ukraine. All right, last big story. So I thought that this was fascinating. Ukraine has one of the lowest levels of fear of nuclear threat. Now, you would think they would have a pretty high level of fear, but they don't. And this is really interesting. Ukraine is among the countries with the lowest level of fear of nuclear threat, according to the results of an international survey by Gallup. Overall, there hasn't been a significant decrease in fears of nuclear threat worldwide throughout the year. 2/5 of the respondents now perceive a high risk of nuclear weapons use. In general, European countries have fewer respondents who perceive the threat of nuclear weapon use as high compared to countries in Asia, Africa, and South America, where perceptions of nuclear threats are more pessimistic. Now, that's really interesting to me because in Asia, Africa, and South America, they're getting lots of Russian media propaganda, and they have a higher fear of a nuclear threat. Indonesia, Nigeria, Ecuador, Syria, and Argentina have the highest proportion of respondents who perceive the nuclear threat as high. Conversely, Ukraine, Iran, why Iran? Ukraine, Iran, Pakistan, and Armenia have the highest percentage of respondents who perceive no such risk. 40,000 individuals were surveyed, approximately 1,000 people were surveyed between October and December 2023. It's a legitimate poll from Gallup, and wow, that's really interesting that Ukraine is not really worried about a nuclear threat. I would have thought that it would have been high, but apparently I'm wrong. Okay, so earlier today, I put out this video. I joined Patreon too. Here's why. And I gave you an update about what happened with the reporting from Ukraine and what they're doing to brace against whatever might happen with YouTube. I went out and I created my own Patreon, and here's what it looks like. It's Professor Gerdes Explains. You can join for free. You can actually support at various tiers of undergrad student, graduate student, colleague, or board of directors. Okay, so and if you want to do that, that's great. If you don't want to do it, please just join Patreon so I have a backup, because, you know, the amount of time that I spend trying to help others, like reporting from Ukraine, I'm sure I'm going to get a larger and larger target on my back on YouTube, and I want to have a backup plan in place just in case something goes wrong for me. Okay, so that's all that I have for today, but I want to show you this because I thought this was a great metaphor. On this side is Ukraine as they build strength. On this side is the West as they decide that they're going to provide the weapons necessary in order for Ukraine to defend itself. So this is instructive. There's two magnets. As Ukraine gets stronger and as the West provides the weapons that the West needs to provide, something like this is going to happen. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the likes, the shares, the subscribes. Thank you for becoming patrons. At this point, what I see is that within about an hour or so, I have 15 members now, and I have over 100 actual just subscribers. Again, you can join for free. Please do so, just so that there's redundancy. I'm going to be posting videos here, but I'll post extra videos for members as well, and I'll prioritize you if you are actually a member. Thank you for your time, the likes, the shares, the subscribes, and your patronage, and thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.